Okay, I'm at 6510 Murray Avenue in Cincinnati, Ohio. I believe this is Murray Mott. And we're doing a sanitary lateral inspection for the purchase of a home. I'm looking for any structural issues, root intrusion, anything that would be concerning to the buyer. Our access location is maybe an old toilet flange, but it is a floor clean out about a foot away from the main stack, so should be just should basically go through this and connect right into the base of the stack or very close to it. So I'll show you, there is the floor clean out and there is the stack, so it's right next to it. But it prevents us from having to try to, it is a PVC cap, but if you can avoid messing with that, it's always good. And so we're going to have some dry stuff in there since this doesn't see any water flow. But I want to make sure that I get all those off there. Sure. There we go. Well, thought so. But because this line's so dry right here, it doesn't go through very well. I think I'd be getting there. Well, we may have to go through that stack. Nope. Okay, I think I made it through finally. We're probably going to have to run some water to rinse the camera head off here. I'm going to pause the video. I'm going to go upstairs and run some water in the bathroom sink. Alright, so I flushed the toilet, we're right in the tub. And so pull back a little bit so we can see that coming in. I think I'm just going to go ahead and continue in case I don't want to get it to the point where I couldn't get it through that turn again. But so this is cast iron. Cast iron is a normal material, but as you can see, it does rust. And so the interior of this line is really rough because of that. It's pretty common, and so it's a little more prevalent to have what they call soft clogs in cast iron. And that is like excessive toilet paper or wet wipes. You don't want to use any wet wipes in here or any paper towels or female products. They tend to catch easier in cast iron because of how rough the interior of the pipe is. So they can cause backups easier. So if you ever want to question that, you could take a wet wipe and a piece of toilet paper, run it underneath some water, and you'll see that the toilet paper disintegrates the way it's designed to, and wet wipes don't. And so and that's usually how it causes backups. Yep, I think we're falling right here at the foundation. It looks like the line is dropping. Hopefully it's a nice smooth transition to go back flat. A lot of times you'll have situations like this where it'll catch right at the bottom of that turn because of how rough this cast iron is. There we go. So I may have to turn this water off. If I don't come out of here here soon because the water can, or maybe just pushing stuff that's on the front of the camera. The camera lens is only about a ½ inch off the bottom of the pipe, so it's not much. And so sometimes when you're running water, it fills the line up. You can see like little areas where, there we go, and I could be pushing stuff because we were out in the clay, and so I could have been pushing stuff in front of me also. Clay, on the other hand, is a really good material as long as you don't have a bunch of trees around. Trees can, just because you can see how shallow that water is with it flowing, but my camera is still covered just because of how little the camera is. Looks like we've switched over to concrete now, which means we're probably getting pretty close to the main. It's not a too strange of a combination of materials. They look like they used concrete on the main and the portion of the sewer lateral that goes up onto the property, and then they used clay to run from the, there it is. You can see they made the sewer main in the line that runs up onto the property off concrete, and then they used clay to run in between the house and the demarcation line between the private property and public. And then they use cast iron in the house. So it's not an uncommon setup. But for the most part, I didn't see any structural issues. There was about 20 to 30 feet, I think, about 20 feet, I think, that I couldn't see because of the water flowing. So we're going to pause the video. I'm going to turn the water off, let it drain down a little bit, and then hopefully that allows full inspection on the way back. Hopefully this will just clear. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to have to put a standoff on the camera and see how deep this is. Looks like we have a little belly here. And then hope that we can get all the way through back through the line that way. Put the standoff on it. It's right at the bottom of that turn, cast iron, where it turns into clay. So about 30 to 50 feet there, we're going to have to re-inspect. Looks like there's a connection right here. on the top of the pipe, so there may be either a downspout or there is a clean out in the front of the house on the floor. So the good news is the line overall looks like it's in good shape. You do see the cast iron is pretty rough, but it looks about normal for cast iron this age. If it ever gets to the point where it's building up the mineral deposits and stuff like that on the sidewalls, you can always have it descaled, but sometimes it's a risk of, if the pipe is thin and you don't know it, you can also damage the pipe when you do that. Descaling just basically scrapes all the rust and everything off the interior of the pipe and makes it easier to get through. But you can see this area where there's no water flow right here, where I had to push through pretty heavily. Okay, so we are all the way back, so I'm going to have to pause the video and we'll get a standoff and see if we can inspect that 20 feet of pipe there. Okay, we've got a small standoff. That's about all it's going to fit through the line. So we're going to hope that this will hold the camera up high enough to see above that water. And we're also going to hope that it will go through this hole that I made. And there we go. Okay, so that's good news. Made it through that spot of the dry area. I believe it was about 20 to 50 feet. Right in through here. We do have some grease buildup and stuff coming through this area. It does look like the line is kind of choked down in that area. Very strange here, and so we can't really see anything from about, oh man, there's a belly from 50, we can't really see what's going on in this area. It's a heavy enough belly where you just can't see what's going on. It does have that standoff on it. I did notice that it looked like there was a big choke down, so maybe you'd be able to clean it and see better, but you can see right in through here, water levels up at the top. There's just a lot of buildup in this area. This is at 35 feet, but it almost looks like it's closed, so there's probably been some backing up going on. So I'm going to recommend that this be assessed by a licensed plumber. Also, the line be cleaned and assessed by a licensed plumber. It looks like there is. I'm going to go ahead and mark the I'm going to mark the line at the beginning and the end of this, but it's about 30 feet. From about 30 feet. About here, out to about 50 feet is where the belly is. And so we're going to pause the video and get a locate. Okay, so we got this marked. It's right outside the house. It's about 9 foot deep. But it's hard to get an exact locate as far as depth just because there's a big bush in the way. But you can see there's enough to where it's almost filling the pipe right here, and it looks like it's probably right around where the connection between the cast iron and the clay is. A lot of resistance pushing, but obviously it's deep enough where even with the standoff on it, we can't really see anything. Let's say to about here. That's where the majority of it is, so about 30 to 55 feet. So again, we're going to pause the video and get another locate. Okay, so this is about 10'7" to the invert, about the center of the front yard, and the beginning of it is about 9'6" maybe to the invert, because it's a little harder to get exact depth just because of the placement. There's some bushes and a plant in the way to already get a perfect locate, but the locate's good. It's just the depth may be off by a few inches. 30 to 55 feet is on the video here is roughly the distance. But the big concern is just how deep that is. You can see how close that water is to the top of the pipe and how enclosed all that stuff is. So. Say about 33 feet to 55 feet. Most of the cast iron looked good, and everything past the 55 foot mark looked good. So the line looked good with the exception of that 20-foot spot that just we're unable to fully inspect and obviously has dropped. And we're back out of the line. So, again, to summarize, the line out to about 33 feet. Looked like it was in good condition and normal for this age of material. And then past that about 55 foot mark, everything looked good. But that large spot in the middle between about 33 feet and 55 feet, that is at least a large belly where the pipe has sunk and it's filling up. There's probably the transition between the cast iron and the clay, maybe the origination point that we can't see because we're underwater, but obviously when you go into it, you're at cast iron, and that would have been really close to where the transition would be, where it would transition into clay. And so that may be the origination point. It may be a little further down than that, but overall it's still holding water, but that's blocking our inspection, and it is also obvious that the line is sunk and could be a spot where it's going to hold a bunch of solids and back up into the house. So I'm going to recommend that a licensed plumber evaluate and get a quote for repair on this. and they may be able to clean it and get another scope, but I have a feeling it's going to need to be repaired. So that's going to end the inspection at 6510 Murray Avenue in Marymount, Cincinnati, Ohio.